When you're introducing yourself to people now, how would you introduce yourself?
Like I've always done, I'd literally introduce myself as Mark O'Brien, ex-professional footballer, newly just been announced as Newport County's club ambassador.
Congratulations.
Thanks very much. But it would literally just be Mark O'Brien. Like with things that have happened in my life, I don't see it as these things that people have to see a lot of accolades in. It's just the story that I live with is my life, and I try and make an example of it. So I don't see it as I'm different to other people. Like, so if I was to introduce myself, it would always just be my normal name, Mark O'Brien.
Going back to the start, so when I think of being 16 years old, I think of being pretty immature at high school with friends, not doing as well as I should in my GCSEs. But you stepped out on a championship pitch, playing for Derby County, away at Watford. What was that moment like for you?
That moment is something that I'll remember for the rest of my life. It was something that it was at that point it cemented that I knew football was meant for me. Like the whole time of moving away, I was 15 years old, and as time went on in that season, it just went from strength to strength to strength. And to say I was in a local park the summer before that, and then I'm playing in front of 20,000 people at Vicarage Road, it was something that dreams are made of. But it was that particular time that when I knew I loved football, it just cemented it for me to say, this is what I love. Like walking out, obviously full of nerves. But I think being 16 and naive the way that I was, it was just something that you just go with it. Once I crossed the white line on any pitch, it was like, I've always said it before, it's like an alter ego for me. I was the kid away from there, wouldn't really speak to anybody and speak when spoken to. But then once I crossed the white line, whoever was out there on a field with me, I'd be shouting and calling and doing things like that. And that was just a moment that when I had like me parents that were in the stand watching, that moment will be something that lives with me forever.
Yeah. That sort of having almost two personalities, being off the pitch, being quite quiet and reserved, and then being on the pitch, being someone who can sort of shout orders from the back and command a group of people. What do you think change is there? Like, why was that different?
I don't know. I think the passion of football took over. Like football was something that brought out that side in me. It was always, if I'm out there, I wanted to win. So it was that passion of wanting to win. So it was, we're all teammates. Look, I need you tucked in here. I need you pushed out that side, and all the typical things that you do in football. So like you almost felt you were on a level playing field with anybody. And I'm on the same pitch with the likes of Robbie Savage and Rob Holtz and people like that in their careers. And I felt as though, yeah, like I'm out here on the same level as yourselves. Now, don't get me wrong, I wasn't cocky about it, that I thought I'm on the same level where these lads have played Premier League football. But you're my teammate now. But then once I step off the pitch, it was like people could never really get their heads around, how can you be the person who's shouting and talking and doing all that on the field and you were this quiet lad away from it? But I suppose that was just what football done for me. It brought out a side in me that I never got to express. Like you don't express stuff like that when you're in your day-to-day life. Like it brought out the competitiveness in me, and as you say, like the level of passion I had and the competitiveness and wanting to win just brought out that side of me, and I'm thankful for it.
And sort of looking back ahead of that debut then, so how did your upbringing prepare you for that moment? What was your upbringing like to lead you to making that debut?
My upbringing, I would say, was a pretty normal or a good upbringing. Like my mum and dad, two parents that like really look after me. Like I never went without anything. My brother being 2 years older than me, he went on and played football, and I just tried to follow in his footsteps. Now as a kid, like you do, I went out and I was playing on the streets, and you're kicking a ball off a wall, or you're playing rounders outside, or you're going to a park, and it's probably harder for your mum and dad to keep you indoors than you want to always be outside. So I just seen it as like I was just a kid that just got to enjoy living. I got to enjoy life, and that for me was something that stuck with me a lot, because again, I was never like a fanatic in football when I was 6, 7, 8, 9. I just ended up picking it up at 8, 9 and 10 due to my brother going to play football. And then I started to get a liking for it. And then that liking for football, again, my dad had to travel up and down the country, take us on trips away with football non-stop. And what they done for me and my brother was something that all I can ever do is always be thankful. Yeah. Like, they gave up so much time. And again, if a new football came out, they would try the hardest for me and my brother to have that football, or if we needed a new pair of football boots, or if, again, like you go school books, like we never went without, but we never had a lot.
Yeah.
We always were just happy as we go along. And again, that kind of prepared me just for anything that I got given along the way from 16 and onwards. Once I moved away, it was always like I never lived above me means. I never got carried away with myself. I always just came back to Ireland and I was Mark O'Brien. I made my debut at 16. You'd go back that summer and everybody's loving and thinking it's brilliant. But I'd go back and I'm just still Mark, and I'd go out on the street and I'm kicking the ball again. Like, that was always something for me that I would never get too above me station and think that, oh, I've made it and this is amazing. It was always because I had, let's say, a humble upbringing. It just like went from that into me football, and I was always that type of way. So it prepared me a lot for the whole kind of keeping yourself grounded, even if all the success is falling at your feet at that particular time.
Being brought up with like sort of like focused resources, I suppose, is a phrase that might fit it. And then using that later on in life, like you say, to not live above your means. Looking at that debut then, so obviously only a matter of months after, your entire future in the career gets thrown into question. So just talk us through what happened there.
So like after I made my debut, again, flew back to Ireland, everybody is congratulating me and saying it's amazing. And I think at that point I was Derby's second youngest player in history to ever make a debut. So everything that was expected on me on Derby's behalf to think I was going to be a success there really kind of came to light. And to go back for pre-season, it was about go back and hit the ground running again and go back and start enjoying and loving football all over again. Like, I couldn't wait to go back. But because I was 16 and I was then registered as a first year scholarship, you then had to go through all your medical screenings. And as you do, you get called in one by one, and it's your heart screening and it's your height, your weight, your everything to do with that, your medical. And I remember I went in for my echo and ECG. And when I went in for that, got the scan, and normally you just think it's going to be, everything's fine, go on back out and train. But I remember the specialist called in the physio into the room. The physio closed the door, and they had to explain to me that they found a slight abnormality with my valve, which they told me it was a slight leak in my aortic valve. So that to me was not concerning because I didn't understand. It was more about the fact of, I just asked, can I still play football? And I was told it's something that people can have a condition with when it's from birth, or whether it's something that comes along. And I got told that with this defect, people live with it throughout their lives, and it's later down in life that you need an operation. So I got told you might not need an operation for another 40, 50, 60 years. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, football will be long gone by then. Like, I can have a career. So I never really thought too much into it. So I went back out and I trained. And then I'd done a couple of more days of training. And then when the fitness coach had to do the heart rate monitors and read what the heart rates were for that week and the averages, I remember we finished a running session and my max heart rate went up to 230, or just above 230, and my average was 203. So they put two and two together to say, is he either working really hard, or is it the fact of this defect is what's racing his heart, and his heart isn't coming back down to relaxed stage. It's not like recovering enough for them when he has to go again. He can actually pursue it. But in that time, I wasn't feeling any of the side effects I was supposed to feel, like dizziness, breathlessness, feeling lightheaded, feeling fatigued. Like there was stuff that like you're supposed to feel when you've got issues, and I never felt a thing. So they just put all the information together. They sent it off to a specialist. The specialist got back to them and said, look, we need him to have an MRI to see his function of his valve and his heart to know what the bigger picture is. So I went and had an MRI. And after I got that MRI, the doctor spoke to me in the physio and said, look, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being it's okay and 10 being very bad, he said, your valve is leaking up to a 7 or an 8. And it started getting taken serious, because we were in a territory where it was kind of like, well, we've got the information now that his heart is working really hard, and now we know it's progressed and got a little worse. So then we sent that information off to another specialist. So when we heard back from that other specialist, I got told, look, Mark, your valve is leaking a little bit more, but you probably won't need another operation for another 20, 30 years. So what went from 50, 60 years is down now to 20, 30 years. But in that time, myself again is thinking, well, football will be done in 20 years, like I'll be okay. And everything was always based around football. So once then we went, and what the specialist said was he needs to give it to a surgeon just to see his professional opinion on it. So that got sent to a surgeon, and in the meantime, we're phoning home, telling me parents what's going on, telling me dad more than me mum, because my mum was the worrier who never wanted me to leave home.
Yeah.
But me dad knew all the information. And then when we had to go see the surgeon in the Glenfield Hospital in Leicester, it was me mum, me dad, the Derby physio and myself. We were all sitting in an office, and to this day, it's like I remember it word for word. Like my parents can still remember the name of the doctor. And he walked into the room, he sat down at his desk, and then he picked up a model heart, and he said, Mark, your heart is 3 times the size of what it should be for someone of your age. And if you don't get an operation done this year, you're going to die.
Wow.
And it was at that point, it didn't seem real. Like nothing felt real to me. Like it was almost kind of like you can't be speaking to me. So, me being the naive 16-year-old asked, can I still play football? And he said to me, look, Mark, you'll probably be lucky to play down the park with your friends than getting back to a professional standard. Professional standard, he said, takes a lot of physical fitness, and with this operation, there's not a guarantee that you'll ever get back playing again. You might never play again. And that was the news that like broke me as a 16-year-old to think I'll never get to do it again. And that's what I could never really understand, because I made my debut. It meant so much. It cemented, this is the job I want. And then to get told that I'll never get to do it again, like the operation never registered to me that, look, I need it done or I will die. So we went through the different procedures that can be done, there was one where they can swap the valves around with the lung valve and the heart valve. So it's still your same tissue, but in 5 to 10 years, you'll need another one. There was a prosthetic pigskin valve, which meant there's no guarantee that it will take to your body and your body will accept it. It could last you a year to a maximum of 5 years. But he said there's no guarantee in between that. He said it could go after 18 months, because we got told there was a girl gymnast who had that operation similar to me the previous year, and her valve lasted her 14 months. And she had to go in and have another one. So there was not a guarantee on that. Or else the third option was having a metallic valve. And the metallic valve meant I'd never get to play football again. I'd be on blood thinners for the rest of my life. But it was a guarantee that everything would be okay. So I asked the option of going, well, which one will give me a slight chance at trying to be a footballer? And we spoke about the prosthetic pigskin valve. And without hesitation, that was the one I went for, because it was the only thing that gave me that chance of going, you might play again. And that was for myself. Doctors again told me I'd probably never play again. And again, my parents were supportive. Like, they never questioned me and go, Mark, are you sure about this? It was always, well, look, this is the way we're going and this is what we're doing. And I remember I went in for the operation. It took 6.5 hours long. And that would have been probably September, October time, 2009. And I had the operation. It was a success. But at that time, I remember 3 of my teammates came up to visit me in the hospital. And it was when they left, I remember I sat there in the room and I cried to my mum. And I was like, why did this have to happen to me? Why is this me? Like, everything was going so well. It's always me that ends up in all these horrible situations. And I remember I burst into tears, and I was only 16 asking these questions. And I was like, I don't want this anymore. And you just break into, like, you just kind of have those breaking points. And when I had the operation, Derby sent me home for 3 months until the January. But again, Derby and Nigel Clough, like, as a club, gave me a chance at a career and gave me a chance at life. And Nigel Clough offered me a new 3.5-year deal after open heart surgery to give me the opportunity to try and get back fit. Who, if it wasn't for him, I probably would have never had a career, because clubs handle it differently for whatever reason. And I was just lucky to have these people and that club at the time to look after me. And I went back to Dublin. And again, you have Nigel Clough on the phone, which is why I always say he's a massive part of what my career was and even my life. That he was on the phone to my family, making sure they're okay. He's on the phone to me, making sure I'm walking each day and doing what I need to be doing, and if I'm okay, and if my family need anything. And that you just don't get with a lot of people. And it made me want to get back and play for Derby that little bit more. And it made me want to get back and play for Nigel Clough that little bit more. So I had that fire in my stomach. So by the time January came, I flew back to Derby. And over that time, we started walking in the snow. And then we started like light jogging. And we're keeping our eye on my heart rate through a watch and a heart rate belt. And again, it was all new for Derby physios and the fitness coach. Like, how do you rehab a heart? Like, they just looked at it and thought, well, we have to just do it in a way of, how do you get somebody fit who's not fit? So you do light jogs and then you'll walk. Your heart rate will come up a little bit and you walk again. And we just done that for week after week after week. And that process was long. And I had little doubts in my mind, but not a lot, of this might never happen, because in the distance or across the field from me is all my teammates playing and training, like everything's okay, and I'm thinking my fitness isn't that. And again, I'm comparing myself to them, thinking I want to be back there training and I can't, and this might never happen. But again, I just had so many people around me saying, Mark, we go again. Mark, everything will be fine. And when you get back playing, and I always remember it was always the saying of, but when you're back there, it'll be all worth it. And when you're back, there was never a doubt of anybody saying, Mark, this might not actually happen. And it was only when we went back to the hospital a couple of months after January, I had to do a fitness test. So their fitness test for the general public is walk on a treadmill and just walk. Turn her up a little bit, walk again. And they kept trace of my heart rate. They kept traces of everything. They said, Mark, like, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Because he said, you are like streets ahead of where you should be. Which then gave me the confidence of going, oh, actually, I am doing really well. Rather than comparing what I'm doing to the teammates, I actually looked at it and thought, I'm actually doing really well here. Like, I'm going in the right direction. And again, we just carried on with the same process. And fortunately enough, I got myself back playing by April time for Derby's under-18s. And my first game was against Manchester United in the academy. My dad got to watch on the TV back at home on MUTV. And we got to see that everything was worthwhile. And my dad was more nervous than I was, because he wanted to see, is Mark going to be the same player? Is everything going to be okay? And I always remember him telling me that he seen me win me first header and throw myself in front of the first ball, and he thought to himself, yeah, Mark's okay, and he could sit back and relax.
Nothing's changed.
And that for me, when I got to do that and the ball hit me in the chest, and I just felt, yeah, I'm back. And I didn't care where it was. And I got to make the first team bench at the end of that year. And that for myself was not a lot of football to be played, but probably one of the most significant years in football that I've ever had and needed.
What was the distance time-wise between the first time you got told about it and you got told you had 40, 50 years to then having the operation? What was that time frame?
The time frame, if I had to think back on it now, would have been probably the beginning of July, end of June, beginning of July. And to then have the operation would have been probably about 2-3 months. So
how does that hit you as a 16-year-old? Because that news to anyone, like an adult, would be quite difficult to comprehend and get your head around potentially. As a 16-year-old, what's that like? Can you think back?
To be honest, as a 16-year-old, it's almost like I was lucky I was 16, because you don't take it on board. Now, don't get me wrong, I remember every word that was said. For whatever reason, I remember it, but you don't realistically take it on. You just sit there with it and you kind of just think, oh, well, if I can get to play football, I just seen it as it's just another operation. It's something that I need to get done to get back playing. Like, there wasn't much of a thought. Like, again, it was hard to register the severity of what open heart surgery is, that I could potentially die and all these different things. That at 16, yeah, I remember till this day, but I never really took it on board when I was 16. And I think, again, the people around me done unbelievably well to shelter me from it. Like, your parents, as they would do, shelter you and tell you everything's going to be okay, so you believe them. People around me, Mark, when you get back playing, everything's going to be great. You believe them. So it was the support system I had around me. When I look back and, as you say, reflect on it, it was everybody that was around me that kept me in the right mind frame to think everything's going to be okay, because nobody told me any different.
So obviously coming back from that and that first game you spoke about against United, like massive moment, stepping back on the football pitch, pushing on then the next couple of years, you became a first team regular for a stint in 2011, was it? Yeah. And again, that was sort of cut short. You went into an injury, various injuries. So talk me through that, and what was it like to get that sort of run in the first team, and then again, just sort of like 16-year-old, sort of having it taken away in that moment?
It was tough because I remember that pre-season, everything was going brilliant for me, and I was 18 at the time. So everything was just going step by step. And the season before, I was in and out. I was making a couple of appearances. I was back on the bench again. And for a 17-year-old, it's unheard of. But they were kind of just slowly tiptoeing me back into first team football. But when I was 18, it was my first ever pre-season doing it with the senior team. Very tough. Don't miss it one single bit. But I was doing really well. Every game that I played in, I done really well. Everything that I needed to do, I done really well. So when the first game of the season came around, it was Birmingham at home. And I remember I got chosen to be on the bench. And Russell Anderson, unfortunately for him, picked up a hamstring injury in the first 30 minutes of that game. So the manager turned around and chose me because I was actually performing really well. So to go from that moment then to play 60 minutes at a home stadium on the first day of the season, we win the game, and it just snowballed from there that I just became a regular and playing every single week. And like you say, sometimes it's unheard of for an 18-year-old centre-back in the Championship to be playing, but everything just kind of kept going. But I knew there was points of my game that I needed to get stronger in, that I needed to get better at. But at the same time, I was playing in Derby County's first team. Like, I was just enjoying every single moment that came my way. So I remember we got to Christmas time and we played West Ham away, and Nigel Clough called me out into the centre circle before the warm-up and said, look, you're going to be on the bench today. And I was like, okay. And he goes, I bet you didn't expect to play that many games this season like you did. And I just kind of smiled and said, yeah, no, I know. I said, I've loved every minute. He goes, right. He said, just keep your head down. He said, but the club captain was back from fitness, from an injury, so he was going to play. So as you say, you sit there, you get a little bit disappointed, but again, you think, I'm 18 years old, like I shouldn't be playing as many games as I should. Like, that was the whole kind of thing in my mind. And I ended up coming on for the last 30 minutes of that game. But over the Christmas period when we were in training, I remember we played against Leeds United. I came on for the last 30 minutes, which then meant if you don't play longer than 45 to 50 minutes, you train the next day.
Okay.
So in training the next day, I remember Nigel Clough pulled me into the office and he was like, look, I'm going to start you this weekend, so make sure you're ready. I was like, no problem. So then I went out and trained, and I'll never forget, like, we were doing a possession game. A ball got played to me, and as I was getting closed down, I went to move one way with the ball after I passed it, and I just felt something like pop in my knee, and my leg slipped, and I was down and I was punching the ground, and I was kind of shouting out, and I was thinking, this is in so much pain. The physio came out, I got carried into the physio room, and then the pain just went away, and I thought I might have slightly overreacted here. So the physio done his tests on me, and he came back into the office with the manager and goes, Mark, you've ruptured your ACL. And again, like when you come from Ireland, you don't have so much knowledge of injuries and football ways and different things. I said, also, how long is that injury? Like, is it a couple of weeks, a month or two? When he was like, no, your season's finished.
Yeah.
And that broke me, because I thought, I'm doing really well. I'm supposed to be playing this week, and now my season's finished. So then the feelings come flooding back of, oh, well, hang on a second. The open heart surgery has happened to me. Now the knee injury, like, this isn't going the way I wanted it. Like, and again, you end up like getting really upset, and you end up getting really annoyed. But the only thing that got me through the ACL was the fact of why I say the open heart surgery at 16 was so significant was, well, if I can get back from that, I can get back from this.
Do you think that helped you in that moment when you had that setback, thinking back to when you were 16 and you had something that was more serious? You got through that, you can get through this.
Yeah, 100%, because I had every last doctor's telling me that I might never play again. And this is 2-3 years later, and I'm back playing on a football field at a professional level in the championship with Derby County. Like, that to me was the turning point of going, well, with an ACL, which again, in most times of sport is known as a career-ending injury. And I thought, my only thought process was, well, if I can get back from open heart, I can get back from this. So I didn't see it as significant. Now, don't get me wrong, it was a really tough injury to get back from. There's a lot of sitting around and letting things heal, and then there's a lot of building back up, and it was a different level of an injury. It wasn't just to do with fitness and your heart, and it was more the fact of, I used to beat myself up a little bit, because with the open heart surgery, every single season that I played, I would have a scan at the end of every single year to see if I was allowed to play the next year. So I was never guaranteed that if I signed a 3-year deal, I was ever going to fulfill it. If I signed a 4-year deal, I was never going to fulfill it. So I had a scan every single year. So if something happened to me within that season, it would hurt me a little bit more, thinking this could be my last season and this has happened. But I think looking back on it, my mum always sees certain positives and things just like myself. But my mum used to say, that's always someone looking down on you, just to give your heart that little bit of a rest, to let you prolong a little bit longer. So
yeah, that's an interesting way to think
that
about
for myself, I used to always think, yeah, like there's a truth behind it. Like, it's that believing in it. And the ACL then taught me, well, I remember I sat with the fitness coach and I said, like, what is it I can do to get better, or that I need to do? And I needed to work on my physicality. I needed to bulk myself up. I'm an 18-year-old in a men's game. I need to bulk myself up. So for the 9-10 months of the ACL injury, I was in the gym. I was getting physically better. I was building myself. So I had a goal to go towards, to kind of go, well, I'll work on this. And then once I do this, once I get back playing, I'll be better for it. So like, there was always like the positive spin on so many things, that I worked on my physicality, and it just went from one strength to the next, and there was a few up and downs in between it. But then I got myself back playing, but I was fitter, I was bigger, I was stronger, so I was going to be able to sustain the first team level.
Yeah. Did you notice that physicality boost when you got back into playing? Like, obviously, reading your book, there was a quote, I'll butcher it probably, from Nigel Clough about the sort of player you are, and it said something like, if my nan had the football, I'd tackle her.
Yeah.
So you were obviously a physical player anyway, but did you notice that boost from what you'd been working on during that time?
Yeah, 1,000,000%. Like, I think that for itself, for me, was another turning point in my career, that the ACL got turned into a positive, to say, well, even though I was out for 10 months, it gave me an opportunity that I wouldn't have had to work on the physicality during a season, that when I do get back, I can sustain it that bit better. But I could feel it in my body, I could feel it in my legs, that I was a lot stronger. Now, getting back fit was tough, because there was a lot more weight to carry, because I was heavier. But once I got back into it, I could feel myself physically being able to cope with bigger, stronger strikers, where I was able to use my physicality against other strikers and not be pushed around as the 18-year-old. Now, what got me through as an 18-year-old was I was fearless. I would put my head in where people wouldn't put their feet, and I would block balls, and I'd throw my body on the line, and I was aggressive with what I'd done. But now I can add that aggression with a lot more of a physicality, that I can be a lot stronger and a lot more dominating in what I do. So they both married up, but I could definitely feel the difference and the confidence it gave me. Because before, like, again, I was very slight when I played at 18, so I could always feel as though, oh, well, he's a lot bigger than me. Whereas it gave me a little bit of a confidence thing to think, no, I can handle myself here. Like, I am stronger, like, and I've worked hard on it. So it gave me a bit more of a presence on a field to what the aggression just couldn't just fulfill everything. I needed to have that little bit of a presence and feel about it, that now I can feel like the complete centre back, not just the one who's aggressive. He's kind of like, I've got a physicality to me now.
Yeah. It sounds like during those times, those periods of like recovery, like reframing the way you saw it was quite important. So like looking at the injury as a reason to like to rest your heart, but also to boost your physicality and to look for a positive in it.
Yeah.
Is that something that you learn, or is that something you've sort of always done?
It's something I learned. I think it is a way that like I live my day-to-day life by it now. It's like I always believe that there's a silver lining in every sad bit of news, bad bit of news, any setback. There's always a silver lining in it somewhere. Now, it might not always be something that says it there and then and makes you think it. You almost have to like kind of look for it a little bit. So even though I had the knee injury, I looked at it for a little bit, and again, it's that nice feeling of being able to look back at it a little bit and go, well, that happened because of this, and you put your own spin on it that makes it sit easier with yourself and give a reason to it. So there's a lot of things that I've had in my career and my life that I give a reason to then, when your mind and everything searches for the reason why did this have to happen and why did this have to happen to me, give a reason to it, and it settles all those thoughts that you get in your mind, because the reason is, well, I needed that for it to build me physicality, because through a season I wouldn't be able to do it. Potentially I wouldn't be able to sustain a senior level football for a full season, but now I can go and work on my physicality to do that. It was the same as when I got back playing, I had a microfracture in the same knee. Now that was just something where I'd put it out there and say was the anomaly of I got back and they found the microfracture, I had another knee operation, but maybe that was just the turning point of my Derby career to say, look, you've had your fair share at Derby now. When you get back, Steve McLaren came in. It was a new era at Derby, new way of playing, new way of football. And I loved every minute of it. I always say Steve McLaren is up there, one of the best coaches I've ever had. And that was my time at Derby to be done. But then that set me up for to kind of look at it and think, right, well, if Derby was this for me now, what else is that? So that's when my career path started, finding other teams.
So on to that, like the end of your Derby career, you got loaned out to Motherwell into the Scottish League. How does the Scottish League compare to sort of what you know down here?
Do you know what? I think it's a mixture of all leagues down here up there. So you will have your one or two League Two teams that aren't like financially brilliant or haven't got a great fan base, but they're a tough team to play. Then you've got like your League Ones, your Championships, and maybe, and I say maybe for the fan base that it is in your Celtics and Rangers, that could be a Premier League, but maybe a top end Championship. And I look at that and say, when you've got all that mixed into one league, it surprises you because it's not regularly spoken about Scottish football. It's not really where you think, unless it's Celtic or Rangers, I don't want to know that. But you've got your Aberdeens, you've got your Hearts, you've got your Hibs, you've got your Motherwell, you've got St Johnstone, Inverness. Like, you've got all these teams that there's some really, really good players up there. Like, and I mean top quality players that when I went up there, it did surprise me. Because you come from Derby in the Championship and you think, oh, I'll go up there and experience it and it should be great and hopefully I'll play and do really well. But then like you're playing against Celtic. I remember you played Ross County one week and we went up there, we won 2-1 or 3-1, and then the next week you're playing at 12:15 at Celtic Park in front of 60,000 people. Like, the kind of difference on the scale between two, it's total opposites, but yeah, like I love that, and the people that I met up there, it just opened my eyes to football isn't just Derby. So when you go under the umbrella or you're in the bubble of thinking this one club is for me, just like an academy player thinking that one club is for them if they get told no, you almost then go, it opened my eyes to go, oh, so there are other options and there are other managers and there are other opinions. And then you start learning that football is one massive game of opinions. What one manager's opinion might be is another person's dislike, or one person absolutely loves you. And you just have to source out that one level of opinion that suits you, and you as a player suit that manager, and you could end up having the best of careers. So it opened my eyes to a lot in football.
Yeah. And sort of following the end of that and following leaving Derby, there was a period where you were a free agent. So everyone will sort of know that word, and maybe we don't think as football fans about what that must be like for the player much. Obviously, whilst you're under contract, you're getting money in, but then that suddenly stops and there's no guarantee going forward. So what was that period like for you, sort of mentally, being in that space?
It was scary. I remember I was home in Ireland and found out off Motherwell that I wasn't going to be there anymore. Like, there wasn't a contract there for me. My contract finished at Derby, so I was home in Ireland and I was going to the gym each day, and you're just keeping fit, hoping for your phone to ring, and you're just thinking the phone's not ringing. And you just have to almost have the little bit of self-discipline in yourself to go, I'll just keep training, just keep staying fit, something will come around and something will happen for you. And I had an agent at the time, and I'm on the phone to him most days going, look, have you heard anything? Look, Mark, I'm just trying to speak to one or two, but we have to just sit tight, and hopefully there might be a few people that might want you. And I'm sitting there thinking, this might never happen. And it does get to you a little bit, because it's your livelihood. It's everything. Like, your football is everything. And when you're sitting there and you're so uncertain about it, you try and just stay positive. Go, no, there will be. Because of that Motherwell move, you go, there has to be a team out there, just someone that'll take a chance, just someone that will get me in the door. And I remember it got to about, I think, the 28th of June, 29th of June, and the phone still isn't really ringing. You're watching ex-teammates and other people going back for pre-season, and you're thinking, I'm still in Ireland. Like, what is happening? Do we have to start playing like football in Ireland now? Like this isn't right for me. And as that time was going on, I remember my phone rang at the beginning of July, and my agent was like, look, Luton want you over for 10 days. They're going to Portugal. He wanted to go with them for 10 days to see how you do on trial. So in that time, I ended up going to Luton. And again, this is how quick football changes. It was like, I go from no contract to then, right, Mark, pack a bag overnight, you're going to Portugal. And I was like, yeah, no problem. And I ended up landing in Luton. I met the lads at the airport, didn't know anybody on the team, didn't know a single person. And you're standing there as the new kid in school type feeling. Everybody else knows each other.
And you're still pretty young at that point as well.
Yeah, I was only 20, 21. So it's that like whole new kid in school feeling, like you don't know who to speak to, you don't know who are the wrong people, who are the good people, who are this, who are that. And again, you just have to try and like feel it out for yourself. And again, I was still that person off the field. I didn't, like, not that I didn't speak to many people, it was just a speak when spoken to mentality. That's the person I always was. And you're almost waiting on the training sessions to start, because once the training starts, I'm talking to people and pass the ball here and tuck out, like, and it brings out that side. So then you come out of your shell a little bit more once the football starts. So it was more like the social side of it. It was always like the kind of, well, I don't know, like what does he like? What is he like as a person? Like, will we get along? Like, it was always the overthinking stuff for me. But again, once football started, it just brought me out of my shell that little bit more. So I went for 10 days to Portugal, loved every minute of it. We played a game, I scored a goal in it, and I ended up signing a 2-year contract at Luton, and it just changed so quickly.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing that we don't, I suppose, like, if you take it outside of football, we speak about like redundancy is probably the closest thing. Obviously, you would know a time frame of when the contract's coming to an end in football, but it's that same thing. If anyone said they'd been made redundant, there's instantly like empathy with them. People understand, like, oh, I'm so sorry, that must be really tough.
Yeah.
But in football, there's this weird thing where it's like, oh, this player's left as a free agent, and we just go, oh, okay. Yeah. It's like, actually, that person's probably like exactly what you explained there and what you spoke about in the book. Like, that's what makes me sort of ask and reflect on it, because it made me do the same. And just thinking about, how it must be for people
Yeah, like it's a crazy feeling because, like you say, with a redundancy, everyone's like, "Oh, I can't believe that happened to you." But again, the perception around football and footballers is you earn thousands a week, and you're on thousands a month, and not every footballer is like that's the small minority of footballers that are in the Premier League. Like there's lads that I know of people that have gone on in my life to earn more money than me when I was playing for a League Two side, or when I ended up at Luton, and I had mates that were earning more than me and they couldn't get their heads around it, but they understand it because they have me as a friend. So look, I just think that that whole stigma around footballers is they don't get given this sympathy because it's, well, you have the best job in the world. And it is the best job in the world. And I go, yeah, it is. But again, you're missing the concept of it's a job. So just like anybody else who may lose their job, who may not have a contract, it's not the fact of, they'll pick another contract up. It's almost like, where's the next paycheck coming in? Where's the next money coming in for me to provide for my family? Where's the stuff that I need to pay bills? Like footballers still have to pay bills. They still have car insurance. They still have all these other things that for some reason people forget that they've got all a normal life of living. So to an extent, like you say, footballers have to have that little bit more of a thick skin, because when you get to that stigma of the mental health side of stuff, which is getting so much better in the game, footballers, there's a reason why they probably struggle that little bit more, because there's not an awful lot of people that will want to listen to a footballer because they think that already they're privileged and they've got everything and they've got this and got that. But there's lads that do football for the sake of just loving the game, and they don't do it for the wages, and they don't get the wages that people expect them to get. So then all of a sudden it's like, right, so who's going to listen to these people that go, oh, it's just another footballer moaning again, and it's just another footballer with problems. We all have problems in the real world, where it's almost like, yeah, but when you marry the two together, it's just an individual in a job, another individual in a job. One is struggling, the other one's been made redundant, and it's almost like, right, everybody is the same. We're all so similar.
Everyone's a human being.
Exactly. And when you bring back the human element of it, you then start understanding, going, actually, do you know what? Yeah, it is tough, because you think to yourself as a footballer, and this is up and down the country, and this is every league. When it comes to Christmas time, when it comes to New Year's time, when it comes to bank holidays, and it comes to birthday parties, and it comes to potentially missing your first child being born, everyone else in a job outside of football get the privileges to enjoy Christmas, to enjoy these things. Certain football, or majority of footballers, don't get to do that, because it could be an away day on a Boxing Day. It could be an away day on a New Year's Day. Now, everybody who goes to watch football with their families, the people who are out there that are performing for you are the ones that are not spending it with their families. And I always say there's a bit of give and take between the both, where as a footballer, yeah, it's a privilege and it's a great job. And it is one of those where it's like, can you really call it a job because you're keeping fit and you're out there? But the demands and the pressure that comes with it, it's almost like, right, well, the level of sacrifice I have to give to that, sometimes there's a lot of pressure that comes with it. And you want more people to understand that, and you want more people to get that, because again, when you start getting treated as the human and not just the object and not just the robot and the pawn in a chess game, that's where I believe you get the best out of players. It's when you start seeing it as that chess game and that chess piece, where it's like, right, well, he's gone, right, good riddance, move to the next one. You almost have to think, right, well, but what is he doing now that he's got let go? What happens to him? What about his family? What about these things? And it's just, like you say, the human aspect and everything.
Yeah, I suppose a lot of it's changed as well over the years. Like now with social media, everyone's got a voice and an opinion. And again, we've seen it loads of times where footballers have been attacked online, various ways. Is there also a positive element? Does that social media give footballers a possibility to show their human side? Not they should have to, but to maybe be more like one-on-one with people who follow them, rather than just being this person that we see on the TV and they play for this club.
Yeah, like you say, there's a bit of give and take. Like my dad always said to me, Mark, you have to take the good with the bad. If you're willing to be on social media, you have to take the bad comments as well as the good ones. It's not just there to pat you on the back. So when the more I understood that, it does it's a give and take with both, because you are going to get fans and it's their lifelong club and you're in participating and playing for them to make their club successful. So you understand, like, in the heat of a moment, people can get annoyed. If you had a bad performance, people can say what they want to say. But at the same time, like you say, there's elements of social media that can be really good for a player to show his real side, because again, it's almost like that whole thing of, oh, well, I have to put on the mask and I have to pretend and play the part. Whereas it's almost like you see some of the players, as in over time with your Jack Grealishes and people like that, people know that, oh, well, he's just a normal lad. Yeah, he goes on holiday. He goes away with his mates. Yeah, he might get drunk a little bit and he might do silly things. But you know what? He, at that time, he's a 18, 19-year-old being an 18, 19-year-old. Now, don't get me wrong. There's an element of responsibility that has to come with football to be a role model and to be that. But you almost then see the human element of going, but he will make mistakes. It's not always going to be perfect. No one's life is perfect. So social media can be good on that behalf, but then also, like you say, it can be damaging because it allows people to think, because it's through a screen or through a text, I can say what I want, because you don't see the person's reaction. And it's easy to then just go, well, I can press send on this. He probably won't read it anyway, but that could be the one comment that one person reads. And there's not an awful lot of thought that goes into it. Whereas if you sit in front of a fan, you can then have a constructive thing, because it's almost like, well, I've got off my chest what I want to say and they don't have to listen back to what the response might be. And that's what I feel as though social media gets used wrongly at times, where when it does get used in the correct manner, where a fan might give his opinion in a constructive way and you might give a constructive answer back to the reasons why. Or again, a player does be open and honest going, do you know what, like, the wife has left me, or the kid had me up all night last night, or there's something going wrong with the family. And not that footballers should have to do that, but it's almost like when people do see on their socials that they are just normal humans, it should relieve that little bit of a stigma to kind of go, oh, well, footballers have the most glamorous of lives. Yeah, well, if you follow players that play for Man City, play for Liverpool, play for Manchester United, play for Arsenal and all the top teams in the Premier League, they are going to have great lifestyles, because, yeah, they do earn good amount of money, but they still have to make the same sacrifices. But lads from the Championship, League One, League Two, Conference football, all the way down, these lads won't even be on a tenth of what they're on and still have to make the same sacrifices. So there is that element of social media that should be able to bring that out. So there is good and bad with social media, because fans will feel as though they're heard a little bit more, but now players can be heard that little bit more as well if it's done correctly.
So just going back to sort of where we left off your career-wise, sort of journey down the timeline. Yeah. So Luton came knocking. We won't dwell on it too much, because reading through the book, it wasn't the best time for you, but there was a little passage in your book that I'm going to read out, and it's sort of at that time where you'd sort of been ostracized for no real reason, or what it seemed. And yeah, it's about that sort of harsh reality. And again, what we've just been speaking about, it fits quite in, because it's the bit that we don't see as a fan. So you said, welcome to the harsh world of football that most fans don't think about. Most presume footballers have an amazing life, money, acclaim, playing the game they love. Instead, I was living on my own, many miles from home, training on my own, and had no prospect of playing football. I was becoming very lonely, with no friends to call on locally aside from my teammates, and feeling in no man's land. I had no security, nor an idea of where I was heading. All I could do was keep my head down, do my job, and get through this. What was that time like for you?
That was one of the most difficult times I had, because there was no excuse to why I shouldn't be playing football. There was no injury holding me back. There was no setback from my heart. There was just one person's opinion that didn't want me at the club. Now, I understand the business side of football, where if your face doesn't fit, but the way that it went about it, where it was, I almost should have felt lucky for being there. Well, I'm still allowing you eat food with the first team. I'm still allowing you in the training ground, so I should be thankful for it. But I was training with the under-18s, I was training with the under-16s. When pre-season happened, the first team flew to Austria, the under-18s flew to Italy, and I was going into the training ground on my own doing pre-season on a treadmill. And that level of isolation, I look back at it now and go, I can see myself that I was really depressed. I remember like going to training, and you train and you feel exhausted, and then you come back again, you're going in and you train with kids. And don't get me wrong, the academy staff there were brilliant, allowing me to train with them. But I was 24. I'm training with 16, 17, 18-year-olds who haven't made a name for them yet in the game of football. So again, I remember it was the academy manager, Andy Orford at the time. And he spoke to me and he said, Mark, set the example, like don't let your own standards slip. Like almost go into training when you're with the academy side and set the example of this is what it takes to be in the first team. Like train as you would train if you're with the first team. Like keep your standards high. So when I went and trained with them, I almost again went into that role model phase of going, I'll show them what it takes to be in the first team. Now I'll take out certain aggressions where I'm pulling on them and hitting them in tackles and different things like that. But you're showing them like this is first team football.
Yeah.
So I almost then took on that in my own mindset to kind of soften the blow. But once I left the training ground, it just felt exhausting to go in every day. It felt to get up out of bed and to do the same things, and you know that there's no game at the end of it. There's like I'm turning up at the stadium every Saturday to sit in the stand and watch the lads play, and then you're finished with that game and you're back in again Monday, and then it was just like on repeat. And there was never, no matter how well I trained, no matter if I had the opportunity of training, if I didn't have the opportunity, I was never going to get to play. And that was something that was just killing me. And there was no, and when you're not playing football, you're not in the shop window, no one's on the phone to you saying, Mark, we can take you here. But again, I got lucky at one stage when Southport took me out on loan with Dino Marmaria. And I went and played 7 games for them. And that was like a breath of fresh air for me. Like just to play competitive football again.
Yeah.
And I loved every minute of it. And that's when I said, like, the no ego side of me was almost like, yeah, if you look at it from an ego standpoint, it's like, I was at Derby County, I can't be going to non-league Southport. And that's when you start get muddled up with the fact of, no, I'm in football because I love it. I'm not in football for the accolades of what club I'm playing at. I want to play football. So when I went out and played and I got that new lease of life, again, you come back to Luton and right, I'm sitting around again. And then when it was getting closer for the time of me leaving, I had to give up my apartment. And when I gave up the apartment, I had to live in a hotel that was local, which was like an Airbnb. But I had to pay for that out of my own money. Go into training, come back and pay for an Airbnb. And I was there for a couple of months. Then Alan Sheehan, who was the Swansea manager now, he took me into his house for a couple of weeks because of what I was paying there, and he was brilliant with me. Like I say, like it's those little people along the way that probably don't realise the significance of what they've done to help you. But he let me stay in his house until I had a chance of leaving. And it was like that stopped me paying out of my own pocket to something that I should never have had to do. But then I remember I spoke to Dino Marmaria, who became assistant manager of Newport County under Graham Wesley. And I got to a Christmas time and I was with my cousin on Christmas. And I sent Dino a text and I said, Dino, is there any chance that I can get into Newport in January? And he texted me back saying, yeah. He said, let me speak with the manager. I'll see what I can do. Are you fit? And I texted him saying, I am fit. I said, I just haven't played in about 10, 11 months. I said, but the next step for me is to play. I said, I need to play. He goes, right, leave it with me. So then I met with the Newport manager, and then that went from an extreme like meeting where it was kind of like, he's the type of man that he's a very positive way of speaking and being, where if he says, where do you see yourself? You have to say, look, I see myself being a top Premier League player, not just I want to be the best in League 2, I want to be the best in League 1, Championship. Like you have to like sell it to him. And I just sat and I was open and honest with him, spoke about myself, but I spoke about myself in a light where I said, like, I give 100%. I'm a no-nonsense defender, like, and I give everything. But it's hard to give a speech like that when I look back, and I remember it. It's hard to give a speech like that when I was feeling like I was down and out and I was gone. Like when I was at Luton, when I was staying in Allen's, I'm just going to bed, and then I'm sitting on a sofa and I'm really quiet, and then I'm just going to bed and I'm sleeping, and then I'm getting up and going training and coming back and I'm sleeping again. Like, everything just felt as though this isn't for me, and I was close to thinking to myself, this could be the end of it for me, like the way it was. But again, there's always that element in me that there's always that push of, this manager's not going to defeat me. I'm going to do everything I can and prove him wrong. Just like the injuries as the setbacks were always like, well, if I can get back from this, I can do that. Well, then I'd look back at all of them in a whole and go, I didn't go through all that for this fella to beat me. So I'm going to keep training, smile on my face, shake his hand, do all the right things, and make sure that I am as ready as possible to go out and perform. And that's what drove me on, was the point of making a reason for it to go, I'm going to prove him wrong. And then once I came to Newport, I played 20 odd games at the end of that season, and we got to play Luton in that. And they were pushing for playoffs, I think, at the time. And we played out on the stadium and we got a 1-1 draw. I ended up getting sent off in the game in the 89th minute. But we got a 1-1 draw, and I remember shaking everybody's hand, and all the lads who were there were like, OB, you were brilliant. Mark, you were brilliant. All the staff, the manager never shook my hand. And I just thought, well, I'm glad I proved it.
Yeah.
I'm glad I went and had that result.
Yeah. It's good that you sort of stuck to what you knew was true. And it shows in that sort of handshake incident, I suppose, sort of where it lay. You sort of looking back again at those sort of setbacks from before. So I suppose it's like building that evidence base behind you. Every time there's a setback, it's something else that you can pull on.
Yeah.
Is that what you did in that period? You sort of look back at those other things, or was that slightly different because there wasn't an obvious reason why?
There wasn't an obvious reason of why I wasn't playing, but again, making sense of it in my mind was to kind of go, well, if I can do all these things and make it back from this and make it back from that and play in Derby's first team and all the things that you do from the past, but you use it in a way that I looked at it and thought, it's going to make me push through this to go, he's not going to get the better of me. This is one person's opinion. I've seen it all before. It's happened to me so many more times. And that is what done it for me. Because it's always when people say the past will be the past, but it's how you use it for yourself. Even through the tough times of things that I can look back on and say, oh yeah, well, I wish it didn't happen, but I'm going to use it in my advantage now to get me through another tough thing that is happening for me. And that's the way that I've seen a lot of my past troubles, that I've given them a purpose and I've given them a reason to be able to get where I need to get and to give me that little bit of a motivation and a push that I need. That, again, I wasn't getting it from anybody else. You get the odd token gesture of just keep your head up, you just keep going, anything can happen. But realistically, even when I reflect on everything now, it gives you that lesson of going, but it all still has to start and end with me. So no matter what people will say, yeah, it can be positive and it can be encouraging, but I still have to do it. I still have to put my head down. I still have to get on with things. I still have to come in and put the smile on my face. And that was probably the most difficult thing, because not many people probably knew I was struggling, because you had to be I'm not letting you defeat me. I'm not letting you, so I'm going to come in and I'll shake your hand every day, as much as it was probably killing me. I'll come in and train with the under 18s and be the best example that they can see. And I'll put the positive step forward. But it did get me through it. But it took a lot of energy to get me through it. And that's the one thing that I can see, the give and take between both. That as much energy as it took, it did get me there, from pulling back from certain stresses and certain downfalls I've had in my past. They got me to where I was through that.
It goes back to that sort of, there's things that you can control and things that you can't, right? So what happened there was outside of your control, but what you could control was your response to it and your behaviour, to walk in with your head up, shake hands and go on about your day and keep training to the level that your standards, like that phone call you said, training to your standards, not letting that defeat you and just pushing through. So you mentioned about coming to Newport. Obviously, that's where we're sat today. Lovely view out onto the finest pitch in League Two, correct? Yeah. Officially voted. Tell me about the first sort of few months here, because it's now dubbed as the Great Escape, right?
Yeah.
So any Newport County fan listening will understand and know exactly what I'm talking about. But for anyone who doesn't know, talk us through that.
So what happened was, when I got the opportunity to come to Newport after meeting with the manager, I met with the manager on a Wednesday. I ended up training on the Friday, played a game on the Saturday. So I was straight into the team. And everything kind of snowballed from there. But the circumstance that I came here under, which a lot of people found out afterwards, was my contract at Luton. I had 6 months left, and with a pay up and different things like that, and an agreement, Luton wanted to give me a 1 month pay up of 7 months that they didn't have to give me. So they gave me like 1 month, and I said, well, that's obviously not going to be sufficient enough. So then the Newport manager got on and said, look, we'll think of an agreement and different things. So I remember the agreement that was with Graham Wesley was, look, we're in a lot of trouble as a club. We're like bottom of the table. If we stay out of relegation, he said, you will get your pay up money in your off season. But if we do get relegated, you don't get your off season money, and there won't be a contract here for you. And he stuck his hand out for a handshake. And because I knew or heard of the person that he is, I just had to accept it. He likes an incentive. So that was that incentive to say, okay, let me see if this person's on board. So I was like, okay. So I shook his hand on that agreement. And then I played 20 odd games at the back end of that season. And we just, for whatever reason, when Graham Wesley got sacked, Michael Flynn and Wayne Hatswell came in. And Lenny Lawrence, who was like a mentor to Michael Flynn. And he brought the spirit of Newport back. Like how the fans were, like, he's from Newport himself. He brought the spirit back. Fans wanted to come and support that a little bit more. He instilled into the players what it means to play for a team like Newport, what it means to the city, what it means to the surrounding area, what it means to the fans that come every single week. Like, what it means is you need to fight till the end, and that's what you need to show every single week. So in the time when he took over, I think it was from the March time of that season in 2017, from March, April, May, we had 12 games to go and we were 11 points from safety. And we ended up getting it to the last day of the season where we were 1 point ahead of Notts County. We were 1 point ahead of Hartlepool on the last day of the season, and we played against Notts County. So if we win, we were safe. If we match or if Hartlepool better our score, they stay safe. So it was in our hands. We got it back to a swing of like 10 points with it being in our favour to think, look at one last big push. And that last day of the season, we went from having 1,500 fans here every game to there was 7,500.
Wow.
And walking out to that atmosphere and feeling it, like, it's one of those games that, like, it puts the hairs on the back of your neck standing up. Like, you sit there and you kind of take it all in as you walk out, and you can feel the pride coming from Newport. And we went out and we were 1-0 up in the first half. Hartlepool were losing 1-0, so we were safe. Then it went 1-1. Notts County scored, but then Hartlepool were still losing, so we were still safe. Then Hartlepool scored. Then Hartlepool scored again. So we knew we're relegated, and there was 10 minutes to go on the clock, and the manager brings on 2 strikers, and we were thinking, it can't end like this. We can't have 6 months of the hard graft that we have done to finish like this. And with a minute to go, well, at the 89th minute, I remember I asked to go up front just to be a distraction and maybe win a flick on, and David Pipe ran down the right hand side. He crossed the ball in with his left foot. It flicked off Marlon Jackson's head, who was the striker, and it just landed on my chest, and I volleyed it and I went in bottom corner. And the celebrations, like, I've watched the game back that many times and watched that goal back that many times, that it was just one of those moments in history that will never be forgotten for myself, but for what it meant to Newport. But also, I remember the final whistle going, and I fell to me back, and it was the first time I ever cried for football. It was the first time that I felt emotional, because it felt, I've achieved something big here. It's not a promotion, but it almost felt like one. And the fans were on the pitch and everything was celebrating. But over time now of being here, the significance of what it meant to Newport grew on me that I never even knew. Like, there would have been volunteers losing their job. There wouldn't have been any more academy, so academy staff would have lost their job, and they wouldn't have had a club. And that's why they always say like that. It's one of those goals in history that, excuse me, it's almost like your Aguero's who scores in the last minute to win a Premier League.
Yeah.
It's like one of those moments in time where you just go, wow, how did that happen? And it was my first ever EFL goal. But one of the other reasons to why I actually teared up was the fact of what it meant for me. After having 10 months of not playing a single minute of football, having a bad time at Luton with opinions that not want you and feel not wanted and all of that, to then have that one moment where you were the man of the moment. Like, that is why the whole perseverance of the times of going, not giving up and keep pursuing it and keep pushing, because if it's what you want, it will turn at some stage. Like, that was my moment for it to turn, and that's what everything from the whole career led to that one moment where, look, on another day it could have went anywhere, but for the timing it was, to how it was, and the significance of it, like I said, it's one of those moments that, like, you'll never get tired of speaking about. But I always felt as though, yeah, that was meant for me, and to relive it in my mind and to know what it means, and still being here till this day and trying to give back to all the people who supported me through that is amazing.
It's an amazing story, and I think, yeah, that aspect of all those months of hard work that you and the team put in as well, leading up to that moment, to then have that moment. And thinking of anyone who plays football or has played football at any level, going down to pub clubs that I've played with, everyone dreams of scoring that like 89th minute winner in a big game, and you lived that on that day. What was it like in that moment? Do you remember much of it?
All I remember of the moment is when the ball came in, and I remember as it landed on my chest, the striker, Aaron Williams, was standing next to me. And as he was standing next to me, he almost shaped that he was going to strike it. So I was about to step back and let him strike it, but he stepped back. And as he stepped back, I remember it was just like an instinct where I'd chest it and I'd volley it and see where it goes. And it went in. But again, I can always just recall the feelings afterwards, because you scored a goal and you're exhausted after the celebration. Like, when you watch it back and I'm tumbling and I'm falling, like, I've never celebrated before, so I didn't know what to do.
Just run.
But the atmosphere, you could feel, you could sense the tension, you could sense the relief, you could sense everything in that moment. And as we were standing there and there's still 5 minutes to go in the game, like, the reason why I say Newport is so unique, especially, you could feel the support, and that support dragged us through as much as we did as a squad, and we were dragging each other through. Like, the support and the noise and the feeling to it was almost kind of like we were all in it together. Like, this one day is going to go our way. And the last goal kick, even for it, was Notts County had a goal kick, and we had about 8 lads lined up across the back line thinking, right, once he kicks this, one of us are going to clear this. And then Mickey Demetrio steps out, wins the header, gets thrown up the line, Labadie makes another clearance. And then once that whistle went, that's the moment where I just felt like the most overwhelming feeling of thinking, oh my God, we done it. And that's when the tears came in with all the celebrations that happened on the pitch. I remember I just walked through it all and I went straight to the change room because I had to take a breath.
Yeah.
I had to kind of sit there and go, what has just happened? And I got on the phone to my dad, and my dad they were in the local pub across the road from me, and they were, Mark, congratulations, like, that's brilliant. And I remember speaking to him saying, make sure you watch me goal tonight. You won't believe it was me. Make sure you watch me goal, because I never scored before.
Yeah. What a goal to start with.
Yeah, exactly. It just built up the expectation of thinking I could do that every week when I couldn't. But that's all I remember doing was phoning my dad and saying, like, look, make sure you watch the goal. Like, honestly, and my dad was like, just make sure you celebrate, enjoy yourself. Like, what you have achieved is unbelievable and stuff like that. And then everybody came into the changing room and drinks get handed out and everybody's jumping around together, and just that feeling alone, like, it was just everything came together, and it was almost like, right, we have a spirit here that can go and achieve whatever they want. And for the next 2-3 years after that, to achieve what we achieved and to be part of what we were part of, like, there's other moments that have gone down in the history of here, to make the 5th round of an FA Cup, to make a playoff final, to beat Premier League teams down here, to go to another playoff final, to play Tottenham at a replay away at Wembley. Like, there was just stuff that Newport were just on this wave of success because of the uniqueness of just wanting to succeed, like the uniqueness of just support, the one thing of going, we're the underdogs, but we thrive in being the underdogs. Almost my whole career being a story for Newport of going, I love the underdog story, I love the underdog feeling, and now I'm at a team that we are the underdogs, but now we're going to prove everybody wrong. And that thriving because of the city that it is, the city could support a team that they were proud of, and with that support, like you say, the rest is history with everything that we went on to almost be promoted, but the stuff we achieved is unheard of.
So talking about some of those underdog stories in the years to come, obviously you had a number of FA Cup runs playing against my team, Tottenham, which I remember watching. Yeah, was it 1-1? Was it here?
It was 1-1 here, yeah. I remember Tottenham scored in like the 85th minute, Harry Kane scored.
Yeah.
So they almost lost, but...
Yeah, that sounds like Tottenham, to be fair. Going back to Wembley and playing there against like these teams, and then later on you captained the team out against Man City as well. What's it like playing against some of those top teams? Like, how does that... What difference is there from your perspective?
I'd say the only difference between what Premier League is sometimes the sharpness of your mind and like just the sharpness in that movement. I said, because realistically it's 11 men against 11 men, but their level of sharpness to where they can just have quick movements, quick, everything is done at a sharper pace. But we always seen Rodney Parade as a leveller. Like, it was never like the most glamorous of pitches. It was sometimes disastrous, sometimes really nice. Now it's totally different now to this day. But it used to be a pitch where get us on a cold Tuesday night and it's raining, Newport are the winners. Like, that's the way we seen it.
Yeah.
And once we had Premier League teams in at that time, where when Tottenham would come down, or when Leicester was here and we beat Leicester, when Leeds United came here and we beat Leeds United, when Middlesbrough came here and we beat Middlesbrough, like, that was the feel around the place, was whoever comes to Rodney Parade, Newport have got a chance. And that's where the TV cameras and the Sky cameras and the BBC cameras, they were all coming to Rodney Parade for a big evening, because they knew, oh, there could be a cup upset here. Like, we were the giant killing team of that era to kind of go, if they have Newport, they want to be careful. So it's even the same when Man City came. Now, look, Man City could have probably brought an under-21s team with a couple of experience just in case, like you see with Premier League teams. They put most of their experience on the bench. They'll give people a bit of a debut, a bit of a chance against a lower league side. But their starting 11 was a team that could have played against Chelsea the week before. Like, it was... Goalkeeper was Edison, it was Danilo, John Stones, Otamendi, Zivchenko, Fernandinho, David Silva, Phil Foden, Sané, Mahrez and Jesus up top.
Yeah, world-class players there.
And you have your Kevin De Bruyne, Raheem Sterling, Kyle Walker on the bench with Laporte. Like, you've Gundogan who came on. Like, you've got these players that are sitting on the bench and you're thinking, like, they're taking it serious. Because they know of Newport, of being... It's not an easy game to go there. Now, like you say, get us to the Etihad, it'll be a different story, but they had to understand of going, no, well, hang on a second. And that Man City team through that era, I remember the statistic after the game that it always sat with me was, I think we were like the 5th team in Europe that year to keep Man City to a 0-0 at half time. Because that Man City team were steamrolling teams, and there was the week previous to that, they beat Chelsea 5-0 at Stamford Bridge. So that was an achievement of that season. And that was something that we could be proud of, where we took Man City to a 2-1 all the way to the 89th minute. We get a goal And this is the spirit that we had in Newport, was Padraig Amon scored in the 89th minute to go 2-1. We didn't celebrate. We picked the ball up, ran it back to the halfway line, put it down and thought, right, we're back in this. We've got a chance. Not realising we're playing against Man City here. Like, we need to enjoy it. But that was the feeling we had. We always just kept going till the end. There will always be drama at Newport, was always the thing. And that was just the feel through the whole FA Cup year after year. And then in that same season, getting to go to Wembley and getting to captain Newport in the playoff final, like, it was just, like I say, Newport gave me moments in my career that some people will never get. And I was lucky to be able to be part of one of the most amazing teams that Newport have had, meet some of the most amazing people, have some of the best teammates that anybody in that squad could have been a captain on that day. And to me, get given the honour to lead that and be part of that, like, honestly, like, it's just moments that when I always think back to when I was 16 to get told I would have never have done that, like, that, it makes it mean so much more.
So the playoff final you mentioned there as well, that's obviously a whole season's worth of work just to get into the playoffs. You get through the semi-finals and then you're in the final. Tell me about that match.
Yeah, there's controversy in it, but yeah, I remember, like, making it through the semi-finals, and again, everybody's partying, everybody's loving it. And then when you get to the final, you're thinking, when we played Tranmere, we played them twice that season. We beat them 1-0 at their place. We drew 0-0 here at our place. And we thought, we've got a chance. So we were on this, as I say, this wave of success and this wave of going, look, we're just on a high. Like, no one can touch us. Like, we just get our heads down. We're a hard working team. That's all we're going to do. And then as the game went on, we done really well. Probably should have led in the game. There was a couple of chances here and there. And we should have had a penalty. We should have had a penalty just before a moment happened for me, but we should have had a penalty. And it was almost like just one of those days where you were thinking, it's going to be a penalty shootout. Like, there was not really much to break the two of us. There was an odd chance for either team here and there. But then when that moment happened, I remember the ball got cleared up the pitch and I'm standing on the halfway line, and Wembley's a big pitch. And James Norwood decided to run around the outside of me as the ball was going on the inside. So I thought, oh, he's in here. Didn't realise, like, kind of where my bearings was on the pitch. So I put my hand up around him to stop him running. And as I was turning my body to try and turn and run, it was almost a clever striker play when I look back at it now. He's like locked my arm under, kicked his legs back, and both of us fell down. So it looks like, right, I've just pulled him down. Where I think when I watch it back, and I've watched it back many a time, slowing it down and everything, that he just was a clever striker. I got roped into something that was silly, and the referee came over. I got a second yellow card, and it was in, funnily enough, the 88th minute, 89th minute, and I got sent off. Now, that moment was very, very tough, because even though there was a lot to play, there were two, I'd say they were a harsh yellow card. Even for the first yellow card that I got, I felt was harsh, but the second one was kind of understanding if it was just a yellow card and that was it. But I think for the way that it happened, I just remember storming down the tunnel, and there was a monitor in the tunnel. I grabbed the chair and I sat and just watched the rest of the game. And the lads, like, again, were just really working hard, and it looked like there's nothing to break these two teams. And then it went to the 118th minute, 2 minutes to go. And I remember they crossed the ball, they scored. And I just kicked the chair away from me. I walked into the changing room at Wembley, and the changing room is there, and then to the right is the physio room. So I walked into the physio room, I put a towel over my head, and I just burst into tears, because I thought, I've let everybody down. Like, it was my fault why we're not getting, well, we're not lifting the trophy. It's my fault why we've lost today. It's my fault. Like, I can't believe this. Like, I've let the club down. I've let everybody, because the one thing about myself in football, I'm always very, very hard on myself, and I always was very hard on myself. And I took it all on my shoulders to the reason why we didn't get promoted. Now, in hindsight, if I was there, would I have headed it away? Would things have been different? Nobody knows, because then that's you can't predict things like that. And if I was to live in that, you'd probably never live again, because you'd be thinking, oh well, I wish that happened differently. I wish that, like, sometimes you have to just accept that that's football, and things do happen like that. But I took it very hard on myself, where once the team came back in, like, I didn't even go out onto the pitch to do the lap of honour type thing with the players. Like, I just sat there and I cried, and a couple of players came in and consoled, but I just couldn't look anybody in the eyes, because I thought, I've let every single person down in this changing room. And that feeling I've never had before. You always have disappointing feelings, but this was a feeling of going, like, it's not my disappointment. Like, I've let all of yous down, like each individual person, from the management to the fans that are out there that came to support, and everything that we've achieved. It's my fault we didn't do it. And I just didn't, like, it was hard to kind of compute it all. And somebody came in and said, there's someone in the dugout waiting on you. So I remember I went out into the dugout, and my dad was there with the Derby scout who brought me to Derby, who was a friend of the family, and my old manager from when I was the age of 8 all the way till I moved away at 15 for Cherry Orchard. And the three of them were standing there, and I remember I just, like, took the towel off my head, and my dad was standing there, and I just burst into tears. And he pulled me in and he said, Mark, you should be very, very proud of yourself. I'm proud of you, what you've achieved and what you've done. Not many people get to play here. You've got nothing to be sad about. Like, you should be very, very proud. And it was obviously really nice to hear and great to hear. But, like, I still had that feeling of going, but I've let everyone down. He goes, Mark, you've not let anyone down. What you've gone and achieved this season through all of your life, he said, you deserve to be here in this moment, so don't beat yourself up. So then we went, like, as the day was going on, and I remember some of the teammates coming over, and everybody's like, look, keep your head up, look, it's not your fault, look, we'll just keep going now. Sometimes football is the wicked game of where they can beat you down, but I always believe football is such a great game because it gives you opportunity to rectify things and to go again. So the next season after that, I remember coming back, and obviously in Michael Flynn and Wayne Hatswell's way to kind of break the ice is, here's the reason why we're still in League Two walking in the door. But, like, that breaks the ice, and you kind of can make a joke and a laugh. Look, there's no points in it, but you're the reason why we're still here, and you're the reason why we still have to travel to Carlisle away. Like, and you laugh about it. But it gave me that little bit of a going, I don't want to feel that ever again.
Yeah.
This season, I'm going, like, it's going to have to be different. Like, this season, we're going to achieve something. And I remember we went the first 10 games unbeaten. We were keeping clean sheets. We were winning. It was kind of like a snowball of that. And then, obviously, the season was going on. It was a bit of a roller coaster up and down. And then COVID came. And then that's when everything changed.
In that moment, you speak about it and you can sort of reflect on it now, but that is naturally where human beings go, right? We're the main character in our own story. Everyone has their own sort of path they're on. So to put the blame on yourself in that scenario, I think is human. How long did you carry that belief in your mind for? Did it, obviously coming back the next season, you pushed on, but was that still ever in your mind, or?
I to an extent, when I take time to think about it, like if I watch back on the minute that it happened, then I watch back highlights of that game, like, I still live with it, just thinking, what did I do that for? Why did that have to happen? Like, honestly, things could have been so much different. But I don't see it like that. I just see it as it was a moment in time. It was a memory in time that happened. And it happened for whatever reason is unexplainable. It's a footballing decision. It was a tired decision. It was things that could have went differently but didn't. And like you say, it was just something where I've always carried it with me, but I just don't give it the time of day to kind of go the if, buts and maybes anymore. Or, well, if I had it done that differently, well, yeah, things would have been different. If we had been given the penalty, we could have won the game. Like, there's all these different scenarios that you can always look at in hindsight. So I don't really let it affect me, but it still does, like, come to me at times to go, would have been nice to have a promotion. Yeah, now that I'm retired, I can say that. It would have been lovely to have a promotion. But do you know what? I got to achieve things that not many people get to achieve. And I got to play at Wembley. Now, no matter what happened at Wembley, I got to play there. And not many people can say that either. So, but to get back into football was the best thing for me, to just go and focus and do the best I can for Newport again. And as well as that, Newport as a club and as fans, honestly, you can never thank them enough, because there was never any, like you say, trolls online. There was never any abuse. There was almost, keep your head up, we go again. Come on, we've all got this together. Keep your head up. And to get that at a club for such a significant time, like, I was lucky. And that's why, as I say, till this day, I still love being here at this place, because it's a unique place.
Yeah. And you said then COVID changed everything. So you come back from that playoff final, you push on first few games of the season, and then COVID starts. So COVID put an end to that season, right?
Yeah, so COVID happened. Well, it was the very first lockdown. It was in 2020, that very first lockdown when it came about. And the football side of it had to come to a bit of a stop. Nobody knew how long it was going to stop for. So we were estimated that it was going to be maybe 3, 4, 5 weeks. So people might have to extend the season into the summer to get like the things back playing again. So we all got given the individual like training programs, and keep yourself fit, keep yourself ticking over. Football can start again, and you're having your Zoom calls and you're having your online meetings and stuff like that. And I'll never forget that the day as I was going out cycling, again, the whole 2 meters away, and you can't go to somebody else's house. So like it was that was a tough time in itself. And anyway, but as that time was going on, I remember there was one evening I was sitting in my apartment, and out of nowhere I just felt a sudden thump in my chest, and it felt as though like my neck was pulsing. I could feel my arms and hands pulsing, like my heart was racing. It was catching my breath. I was coughing and didn't know what it was. Now, I just had a coffee about an hour before that, so I put it down to that, going, oh, like the coffee's got me. Like, and funnily enough, I don't drink coffee till this day, because still there's a little part of my head goes, that was the reason why. No, it wasn't. But that feeling, I remember going, something's not right here. So I found our club doctor at the time, told him about it, and he said, well, Mark, when was your last scan? And I said, it was about 4 or 5 months ago. He goes, no, well, everything was all right with your scan then, so everything should be okay. Look, maybe it's something, and he named it as an ectopic beat, where your heart can lose rhythm, and it's almost like you cough to get it back into rhythm. Like you said, everybody suffers with it, but not really people know what it is, but some people have it, and maybe it is just that. He said, I get it all the time. So I felt reassured in it, thinking everything's going to be okay. So I carried on cycling, and the more I carried on cycling, I was getting the palpitations and the skips and everything that was going along with it. And then I'd try and lay on my left-hand side while sleeping, and out of nowhere, I'd get a thump again. And I'd go, oh, and I'd cough, and I couldn't hold my breath. So then I'm having to sleep laying on my back. So I was telling our club doctor, I can't lay on my left-hand side when I'm sleeping. I said, it catches my breath, I can't breathe. He goes, look, we'll get you a scan. He said, it's hard to get into the hospitals, but we'll get you a scan in Cardiff. And with that scan, we will see what's going on. But he said, he said, judging by your last scan, he said, things should be okay, but it's better off being safe. So he done what he done really well, was getting me into a hospital at that time, because they were run like rapidly with loads of COVID patients and different things. So I ended up making it to the hospital. I had the scan. And in my mind at that time, I'm thinking, I hope you find something. I hope something shows up for the reasons why I'm feeling what I'm feeling, but I hope they don't all at the same time. I hope you just tell me that it's nothing to worry about. So we ended up having the scan, and I sat in the doctor's meeting. And as I sat there in his office, he came in and he goes, Mark, we had your scan and your results are that your valve is leaking. And it said it's leaking very badly. And I swear, I just sat in front of him and I put my head in my hands and I just started to cry. And he goes, but Mark, there are procedures that possibly can happen to help your career and to try and keep you going. I said, you don't understand. I said, I need to retire. He said, more than likely. And I said, but yeah. As he tried to lift me spirits to try and go, but there are things you can do in prosthetic valves, the stuff that they do nowadays. I was like, I always made a promise to myself at 16 that I was having one operation for my career, no matter how long it would take. And then the next operation was going to be an operation for the rest of my life. There was never going to be a 2, 3, 4 procedure to keep a career going on something that football's never a guarantee. So I thought it was a decision that was made years and years ago, but it was a decision I was never ready for, because with all the scans I was getting, I was in like a false sense of security that everything's always going to be okay. But even though there was always times thinking there might be that one day that things aren't going to be okay, but I just always lived on the hope of, well, I hope it's not anytime soon. Like, things are going really well for me, and I hope that doesn't happen. But when that time came, and then I was with my ex-partner at the time and got back into her car, burst into tears again, phoned me mum and said, "Mum, my valve is leaking again." And she was like, "Don't worry about it. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll get a flight." And she flew over straight away. And that time was difficult because, again, I was 27, but I didn't have to worry about retiring, because I thought, well, that's okay. Look, I'll retire. It was always going to happen. It was inevitable. It was going to happen. What I started then to be scared of was the open heart surgery, because I thought, I don't want to go through that again. Because even though, again, being 16, I remember everything of it. I remember how your sternum feels. I remember how your thoughts are. I remember how the fatigue and the walking and the tubes. I remember everything of it, and I'm just thinking, I don't want that again. So I was getting more scared of the surgery. So then I thought, I'm going to release out there that I need to retire. So I found my manager, Michael Flynn. I said, just have some news to tell you. He was like, "What have you got to tell me?" And he thought I was going to be a joke. And I was like, "I need to retire." He said, "What?" I goes, "I need to retire." And he goes, "Right, okay." And then he was just going, "Look, I need to go." And he told me that time he rushed out the phone. He said he ended up like breaking into tears because he didn't want me to retire. He said he didn't want to obviously lose me as a player, but obviously we were friends beforehand because we played alongside each other. And he thought, well, he said he felt devastated for me. And once I put it out there into the public that I was retiring, because I was always hard on myself and I didn't think I had the most illustrious career and the most amazing career, I put it out there, and on all of a sudden it's on BBC, it's on Sky Sports, it's on ITV, it's on this. I have all these messages from players that I've played against, teammates, ex-teammates, and I'm thinking, whoa. Like, it almost gave you that feel-good factor of going, actually, I've done okay. Like, my career was actually okay. And it put a different spin on it for me to actually go, yeah, I'm actually proud of it. Like, because again, when you're in it and you're in the bubble, you want the next best thing and you want to achieve the highest of the highest levels. And if you don't do that, you're thinking, yeah, I did okay. But when I actually like sit to look at it and go, actually, I've done a lot more than any hospital gave me. I actually done a lot of good things, and you're getting almost that recognition from other people. And it was something that I needed at that time, because again, like, the harshness on yourself, you don't see it for yourself until somebody turns your head in that direction to go, you should be very proud.
Yeah.
So that all came out, and then you have the interviews that people are going to go, so what are you going to do next with your career? Like, what's happening next? And then I had to then get my head down and just focus on the open heart surgery. And I remember I had a panic attack in my living room, and I was sitting there and I was watching TV with my mum, and the doors to like a small little balcony that I've got, I remember I could just feel myself starting to sweat, and I could feel me heart rate starting to race, and I could feel myself feeling lightheaded. So I opened up the door and I tried to get like a bit of cold air in just to cool me down. And my mum was like, "Is everything okay?" And I was like, "Ma, I don't feel right." I said, "And it's not stopping." So I remember my mum leaning over to me, and she held onto my hands, And she was just had her head down while my head was down. She was like, Mark, just keep your eyes closed. Just keep breathing. Just keep breathing. Everything will be all right. And she started praying. And I'll always say till this day, that was the one moment I thought, am I dying? Like, is this happening right now? Like, could I die right now? Like, that thought is something that, and then I felt more bad for the fact that I could see me ma in the panic and the worry that she is, because you never want to worry your parents or your mum or anybody. Like, you never want to do that. And I almost thought, like, I'm not being the strong one anymore, saying everything's going to be okay. Like, I actually am struck with so much fear that I thought, this is it. And then an ambulance came and they told me it was a panic attack. Never understood what a panic attack was. And then I remember I had to go to Leicester, the Glenfield, to then have a catch up about the heart valve and stuff. And they could see the state I was in, and they admitted me in straight away because I couldn't sleep. I was on sleeping tablets to try and even get like an hour sleeping, because I was too afraid that I was like, I'm not going to open my eyes. Like, I feel like I'm dying. And every symptom that I should have felt when I was 16, I was feeling the full force of it now. I was feeling the fatigue, dizziness, tiredness, breathlessness, palpitations. I was getting all of them. And over that time, when I got admitted, I was there for about, I think, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks I was in the hospital for. And while I was in the hospital, you're waiting on a date for the open heart surgery. So days are passing, but I felt relaxed because I'm like, I'm in the safest place possible. Like, I have doctors around me. Everything's okay. And then there was one evening in the hospital when I was sitting there and I could feel the sweats coming back on, and I could feel myself starting to feel really, really nauseous and really sick. And I ended up tapping the button. The night nurse comes running in and I said, I'm going to be sick. And I end up getting sick, and then I'm in sweats and I'm sick again and I'm sweating. And they brought in the ECG to see what my heart rate was. My heart rate was through the roof, so they thought potentially I had COVID. So I got wheeled into a side room. They done tests on me and they said it was inconclusive whether I had an infection in the valve, but they thought there could be a chance.
Yeah.
They said it was something potentially called endocarditis, which is a certain disease that can create around like the valves and certain things for your heart. And they thought that is the infection that potentially I could have had. So as the days were going on, I was feeling a lot weaker. I was losing a lot more weight, and just things weren't going the way they did when I was 16. So like, I was always trying to compare it to 16. Once I'm in, I'll have the operation, then it's done and I'm back out. And it was like, this is a whole different mind frame that I'm in. Like, I was just so scared. And because it was COVID, no one's sitting next to your bed holding your hand and telling you everything's going to be okay. Everything's on a FaceTime away from family. So I remember the night before me scheduled time for the operation, I was sitting there and the doctor come in and he said, Mark, we've had to wheel you onto the main ward. And I was like, right. He said, we've had to wheel you onto the main ward because he said, we need to find out if there's an infection. But he said, we've scanned the valve. He said, and it's hanging on by a thread. And he said, we need to keep a close eye on you, because if that valve breaks off, and he said, circulates and gets lodged in your brain, he said, you're dead. And that just struck fear in me head to toe. And my mum always relays the story back to me, saying that the nurse who was looking after me and looking after my family, who stayed in a little small apartment block away from me, she said she went over there and said, look, we're going to need you to come into the hospital. Things aren't looking good for Mark. And even then, I'm on the phone to my mum, everything's going to be okay. Look, I'll have the operation tomorrow. My mum's trying to reassure me. And it's almost that unwritten thing that we're both knowing exactly what has just been told to each other, but nobody's saying it. And then my perspective changed at that moment from something I was so terrified for, I couldn't wait to have.
Yeah.
Like, that just changed everything to think. What one thing was, I was afraid of having open heart surgery, was the next thing of going, this is actually going to save my life. I need it. And then when the doctor came in the next day and told me, Mark, you can have the operation, there's no infection. Honestly, it was like that feeling of going, when you don't realise there's that much tension on your shoulders. I felt as though the weight of the world was off my shoulders. I felt as though, oh my God, I'm actually being saved. I burst into tears. I grabbed his hand, I shook his hand, and I went and had the operation. And that one took about 6-7 hours long. And it was afterwards, the doctor said to me mum and different things that he was surprised I'm still alive. He said the state my heart was in. He said I shouldn't be alive since January. He said like all the things that went on, everything was a success. But he said the state my heart was in. He said I'm surprised he's still here. And that was just beyond mind blown to me. But then again, the process of getting fit again was you sit with all like the pacemaker on, the machine that regulates your heart, and you sit with the tubes in your stomach, the tube in your neck, and all of these things that now I'm starting to remember the whole recovery, the towel on your chest for when you cough, sneeze, stand up, sit down, you have to hold it tight because you're staring them the way how sensitive it is. Like all of these different things, and they're all just a process of going, look, you have to get up and walk for 5 minutes. Now walk to that corridor and back again. Now do it 3 times in a day. But you're doing it like a day or two after you get out of intensive care. And that is just because the heart is a muscle and you got to get it moving again, got to get it functioning again. And that was a lot harder this time because I didn't have me dad saying, come on, Mark, we go for a walk. Or my mum going, Mark, come on, we need to walk. And people with you. So I'm on FaceTime to my mum, walking around with a drip that's on me here, and I'm talking to my mum. It's not the same because it's still me having to do it.
How did it compare with the first time round when you're 16? You've got a career ahead of you that you're working towards, and you've got this thing that you're working to get back to. This second time, you've made that decision and you said you sort of kept your promise, which in itself is a really strong thing to do in that moment. It'd be very easy for anyone to try another one and maybe I can carry on a bit because I'm in a good place. But obviously the second time you'd made that decision, you'd already come out with it and said you were retiring. How different was that, not having football to work towards?
That was probably the biggest factor of it all because I had nothing to distract me. I had no goal at the end of it to go, this is what I'm getting back to football for. Like, I need to get through this operation to get somewhere. I need to get fit again to play football. Like, there was none of that. So, like, there was no kind of guidance of to when I'm going to feel better again. There was no, like, once I'm back on the pitch, I know I'm fine. It was always that was the part that made me struggle the most, because then as the weeks went on and I'm doing little bits of walking here and there, and then they think I have another infection and they think there's another complication in my valve, and I'm staying in hospital for another extra 2-3 weeks, and in total I've been in hospital nearly 6-7 weeks. Then you leave the hospital and you go back to your apartment and you hate the world, you hate everything that's going on. You've got no drive, you've got no motivation, you've got no feelings towards anything. You're just surviving every day. And every day felt like such a survival because, again, I had no reason to get out of bed. I had no reason to keep fit. I had no reason to walk. Like, everything just felt as though the reason why I say I'm glad I was naive when I was 16 was because I didn't understand all of these feelings. And now being 27, I understand everything that's going on. I understand that I don't want to do things, and I understand that this isn't right, and I understand that, well, I haven't got football anymore, and I understand that I am retired and what it means. But even though being at 27 and having the understanding of this severity of open heart surgery, everything that came along with it was all so new, because I've never needed to sit down and figure things out about how am I actually feeling, how am I doing, because football was the pivotal of all that. If I win in a game, I'm feeling good. If I lose, I'm feeling terrible. Like, football was the driving force behind everything. And it was almost like, again, where the panic attacks then stepped up and I started having more of them, where if I had a panic attack on my sofa, I'd never leave the bedroom. If I'd had a panic attack in the bedroom, I'd sleep on my sofa. But did I want to sleep? No, because I was too afraid I wasn't going to wake up, and I was just getting more and more tired. I was depriving myself of things. Now I'm on a blood thinner where they end up explaining like what warfarin means. And warfarin is, well, if you have to take 8 milligrams, you need to take a 3 tablet with a 5 tablet. But if you haven't got any 5 tablets, you take 2 3s with 2 1s. And I'm just thinking, this is too complicated. I just thought it was 1 tablet a day and I'm done. And I remember just having breakdowns of everything. Like my life was just turned upside down over the space of COVID to now. And getting to grips with everything. And I remember my mum saying it to me that she thinks I have a slight level of depression. And then the club doctor said to me, he thinks I have a slight level of depression. And I was like, I don't, I'm okay. Like I feel okay. It's just open heart surgery. That's the only thing. I've only had open heart surgery. And when I'm putting it down to all that, I'm making the excuse of it being, oh no, it's the open heart surgery, like giving a reason to it. Whereas when I spoke to the cardiac rehab, they were like, well, Mark, you can still get out of bed. You can still have a shower. You can still go for a walk. You can still do these things, but you're choosing not to because of open heart surgery. You sound like you're severely depressed. So then I never understood depression like I did then. I never understood what health anxiety was until then. I never understood what PTSD was until then. And when you experience them all, it was then when the club doctor said, Mark, look, obviously you can get given an antidepressant, but he said, I want you to seek out every last level of help you can get, because he said, I don't want you just to turn to an antidepressant. He said, I think this will be good for you. You need to figure a lot of stuff out, especially with your retirement. So I went and then started counselling. And at the beginning, I was sitting talking and the counsellors asked me, Mark, so like, what is it that's going on? Like, tell me about like your open heart surgery. And I spoke about it so openly and honestly. I remember the counsellor saying to me and stopping me saying, Mark, do you understand what you're speaking about? I said, yeah, I'm just telling you my operation. Like, it's ventilator down my throat and I had another tube down there, but they clipped the vocal cord, which is why my voice is how it is. And I had like a catheter in and I had these tubes in my stomach. And she was like, Mark, you've had a life-altering operation, like a life change, and you've had it twice. But you're speaking about it like you've just had a tooth out. She said, you're not giving it the time of day and the understanding of how severe that is going to change your body. It's going to change your mind. It's going to change your life. And you speak about it like it's nothing. And I said, well, it is, because I said, it's normal for me. She said, but you need to step away from and making it feel normal, because that's when you be so hard on yourself, where your mind is telling you it's normal, but your body needs the time to recover. So when I get frustrated with myself and my body for not doing the things I think I should be doing, then all of a sudden that's where the anxieties and panics and everything come from, because my mind is saying, Mark, you should be out walking, you should be jogging. When you were 16, you were doing all that at this time. Now it's almost like, no, Mark, understand what you've gone through, and not every operation is the same. So your body's going to take on different information. It's going to feel differently. It might take a little bit longer to recover, but you have to be calmer with yourself. Stop being so hard on yourself. And that was a term I heard for so much of my retirement and the last couple of years is, Mark, stop being hard on yourself. You're too hard on yourself. And I was like, I never understood what that meant until then, when I broke it down in counselling, and it's almost like expecting miracles from open heart surgery and not giving it a time of day. Like, if me blood and my warfarin weren't where they should be in me levels, for whatever reason, because you can't really control it, you can only take the tablets and it can regulate itself. But my mind was, I'm in control of it because I'm eating the right foods and I'm doing the right things. And now when it's slightly off, there's no point doing this, and I'd get frustrated. And it's like, see, you're being hard on yourself. Mark, sometimes, and we said it at the start of this, it's control what you can control, and what you can't control, you've got to let go. But because my valve is the way that it is, and you can hear it tick, 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 and you feel it, I felt as though I have all the control over this. So when it's beating fast, I'll sit down. And then when it calms down, I can stand up and walk around. So I almost thought I am in control. And I was trying to hold on to a control that I physically know I can't. So this operation for itself, mentally, was the most challenging thing I've ever gone through. And that's, as you say, speaking of being sent off at Wembley and managers and different things, like, this was a level of, there's nothing I can look back on to go, well, I got back from this and this, I can do that, because I had nothing to get back for. I hadn't got football to get back for. So what do I need to rush through this or get through this? Because what's the end? I don't see the end. Is this just me for the rest of my life? Crying to people I've never cried in front of, panicking, laying in bed where I can't sleep, depressed and not understanding where the light is, having PTSD where I drift off asleep, and if my heart feels as though I was stopping, I'm waking up in such a panic. Like, is this me for the rest of my life? Like, afraid of my own shadow, like just surviving. Every day felt as though I'm surviving here. And that is something that really broke me, because all that positive mentality of always fighting back from adversities, this one time it got to me, and this one time it felt as though I've got nothing for it. Like this is it. And it's really grabbed a hold of me.
How long were you in that period for? So looking at what you do now, obviously you speak about mental health openly. You obviously understand it a lot better. When you were going through these times, you didn't know what a panic attack was. And to be honest, anyone who has never had one probably wouldn't, right?
Yeah.
Depression, anxiety, all these words that people hear, but maybe don't fully understand until they're going through it. How long were you in that stage for before you got through it and decided to start talking about it to help other people?
I would say I was trying to pretend to speak about it very soon and to be open about the stuff that I've gone through and be the Mark O'Brien, the strong one, has been through another open heart surgery and he's back doing this, and look at him, he's out jogging, like trying to be the success story of being that. But I was lying to myself through it all, because with the face you were putting on for all of that, for the first couple of weeks of being out of hospital, and you're on the phones doing interviews and different things, you'd hang up the phone and I'm sitting in bed breathless, and I'm thinking, and my heart is racing and I'm getting lightheaded, and I'm thinking, here's another panic attack. And I was like not lying to everybody, I was just lying to myself. And it was when a news broadcast got in touch with me here in Wales, and they wanted to speak to me about the panic attacks and about the anxiety, and it was my first time to open up about it. But I think it was maybe a good 6 months to a year I was in those thoughts and feelings of thinking, this is me for the rest of my life. But I didn't want it to be me for the rest of my life. So when I done counselling and when I was doing these things, it gave me a level of confidence to understand what speaking about it is. And then once I had the understanding of what speaking about it is, and being okay with talking about myself, because when you come from a level of football, it's always about the team. It's always about how well the team done. It's never about yourself. So once I got given the opportunity to speak about myself is when I struggled, because like you say, you don't want you don't want people to see it as the big I am and the big here he is and look at him always talking about himself. It's always, now it's the time to do that, but speak about it realistically. And it never felt as good to take the mask off, and it was difficult to do that because you felt as though I have to uphold a certain image, uphold a certain look. What are people going to think? Are people going to pity me when I don't want pity? Are people going to look down on me? Am I burdening people? Like all these questions that float around everyone's head on a daily basis. You break free from it by just going, the right people will hear you. The right people will listen. And luckily enough for me, I had the right people in my life that were there to help me through anything. And they gave me that platform to speak to them, to just keep going into football. Newport as a club, Michael Flynn, Wayne Hatswell again as a manager and assistant manager, taking me back into the football, into that routine of just giving me routine, getting me out of bed, then carrying on. And I'm not ashamed to say that it got to a stage where panic attacks didn't settle down, even with counselling, that I did take antidepressants. And they were things that I had to do to try and like kind of level myself out or even myself out. Now, it's not something that I look at and go, I'm not proud of it. It's not something that I think is a bad thing. It's just something where I go, I needed it. And that was something that took the edge away of, they weren't getting to extreme panic attacks. They were allowing me to survive a day without the massive struggle that came with it. But I knew it wasn't something that I wanted to rely on. And that was something that I made it personal for myself, was I don't want to rely on it. I never liked relying on things. So over time, as times got better and I opened up and reached out to more people and start speaking to an ex-footballer. Then you speak to an ex-golfer. The two of them helped me out along massively. And they could understand me at the level of retiring from football. Then I started opening up a little bit more online about things, just about struggles and things that I'm going through, and just being honest about it. And I then just started to learn, do you know what? The honesty about things and being open about things is something that allows me to go, you're not alone. Because what you do feel in all those moments is when you sit in your head, are those moments of going, well, there's no point telling you because I'll probably burden you with so many things. But everybody wants to be the perfect listener. I will ask somebody to tell me all your deepest secrets. I'll listen to you. And the next person will do that, and they would do that for me. But when it comes to you saying it, you sit there and go, well, now I've just heard their problems. I can't say what I need to say to them because they have enough going on.
Yeah.
So then you silence yourself even more. And those things in anybody's life are things that we all go through. Not just because I'm a footballer, and not just because someone's a business owner, and not so because someone like yourself does a podcast. Like, everybody is the same. And it's almost like you break the stigma of going, you stop judging the scenario of why you felt it. You start judging the feeling that you felt. And that is something that everybody can speak of. But it's just finding that confidence of not really caring about what someone might think or the pity that people might think, because those are then the people that you find out are not meant for you. They're not meant to be in your life. If they don't want to sit and listen to a certain trouble you've got, well, then don't try and hold on to that person. It's almost like, right, speak it proudly, speak openly, speak about a struggle. And then the right people who do hear it are the ones that are meant for you, because then they see you through the good and bad, not just see you through the good. And I learned that as just times were going on, I ended up having panic attacks in the training ground. And I was embarrassed having it, so I had like a little bit of a cry about it. But I was almost glad I had it, because then they could see this is real.
The reality. Yeah.
And then what dropped out of my feeling uncomfortable having panic attacks and trying to hide it from them, now I didn't have to hide it anymore because they've seen it. And then it just taught you where it's almost like, right, let them see everything, because now that'll make me feel comfortable. And then I started to learn the whole, well, what feels uncomfortable now, make that comfortable, and then that's your new comfortable. And then the next thing that might feel, and then they're the building blocks that they're always going to feel uncomfortable. It's just a steady building thing of your confidence, of trusting yourself again, and all of these things as you go along in your life. And that's what I just learned to keep doing, is just the belief of just keep on going. And it mightn't take till next week. It mightn't take a year. And for myself, 5 years on from it now, I'm still learning, but I've done it in a way where I haven't put a time limit on myself. I've just gone with things and just going with it, and not building an expectation of going, in the next 5 years, this is what I'm doing. I've just enjoyed and taken on lessons as I've went along. Some have been great. Some have knocked me back. Some haven't been so great. But unfortunately, life is never going to be perfect, but you can enjoy every single day, because that is the only thing I can control. So like that whole control situation, when I focus on what I can control, it relieves everything else to go, well, the only thing I can control is the day that I've got. So in this day, I'm going to make it to the best that I can make it. And the only way that I can do that is by, if I want to see it positively, well, then I'll make the effort of it being positive. And then everything else that I can't control will take care of itself.
What do you hope to achieve by opening up and like being vulnerable with this and sort of going public with it all?
I just hope for my life to be an example. Like, not that I'm going to change the world, not that I'm going to be this person that everyone can turn to. It's just to be that person that people can look at and go, well, if he can do it, so can I. Like, that's all I want my life to be. Just that example of, look, I've seen it and I've said it so many times that I'm just a lad from Dublin who moved away for a career. My career has come to an end. Now I just want my life to help people. And me helping people, whether that's being vulnerable, because I don't have that stigma of thinking I need to hold up an image. I am just going to be me. And the right people will accept that and the wrong people won't. And why do I need to change that for the wrong people, rather than it just being the right people will find me? So I don't want, and I don't feel as though I need to change the world. But if it can help and give someone that little bit of a fighting chance for something they might be struggling with, to think, yeah, look at all the stuff he's gone through and certain things he has. Do you know what? Fair play, and I can do that. And if his mindset can be like that, so can mine. If I've done this and I've lost my job, well, then I can definitely find another one. If I have to go through any surgeries that I'm really scared of, well, I'll know everything's going to be okay, because look at, he's proven he can get back from this. And that's what I want to be. So when I talk about putting me past stuff into light and looking for that silver lining, well, that's the silver lining I'm giving me whole life, and even last year's 5 years ago's operation. That's what I'm giving it. The light and the silver lining is, it meant to happen to me to be the person that I'm being today, to help others. And that is something that will always fulfill me, to think if somebody can read my story, somebody can hear me speak, or somebody read something that I wrote and just go, everything's going to be okay, well, then I'm happy with that.
Yeah. We talk about like role models, and in society, but also in football, like you said earlier, being a role model, being a professional footballer, this, we sort of say it, but we never really like, what is actually a role model? It's exactly what you're doing now. It's being vulnerable. It's starting those conversations that aren't really commonplace, especially within football, within like a lot of like men playing it in pub clubs. It's not conversations we're having, but they do need to be having, because of how many men do suffer in silence. And I think we spend too much time as a society picking poor role models and slating them. The amount of like media attention that someone like Andrew Tate gets, and it's all negative, and a lot of that's rightly so. But rather than that, why don't we just spend time showing people good role models like yourself? And I'm sure there's loads more out there doing similar things. And
yeah, like, but they're the things that I look at and go, look, people like that, as you say, on socials and different things, whether it's good or bad, they see it. Any publicity is good publicity, and that's the line they want to go down, and that's fair play. And I'll always be open and true to myself, to where I'm not going to be a person where I'm going to change with the trends online. I'm going to go with what the in thing is in this day and age. I'm going to keep changing the way, like, this is me and this is what I am. And as I say, the right people will want to and enjoy following my page just as much as I'll enjoy hearing their stories. Like, the one thing I learned from all of this is, for myself, everybody's got a story. I'm no different to the next person. They have a story to why they are how they are. The next person has a story, and I enjoy wanting to sit and listen to that. It's not just about thinking, right, now I'm putting a point on my story, everybody has to listen to me. It's almost like, no, this is just my story. But then that next person go to me, oh, well, if he's going to be open and honest about his story, I'll be open about mine. And then the next person can talk about theirs. And it's that being vulnerable in front of someone gives them the open door to be vulnerable back to you. Because I believe vulnerability is what opens those channels, where I'm not going to sit here as somebody saying that I've cracked it and I know what the best advice is and I know the best of this. I'm just somebody who's real about it, to say, look, these are things that have happened to me and I'm okay with it. This is the person that I am and I'm okay with it. I'll have great days, I'll have not so great days. But you know what? The one thing that I do is that I don't beat myself up about it anymore. I take it as it comes, and every single day that it does be good or bad, well, I'll try and look for that little small positive that I know for myself is, well, at least I woke up to give him the opportunity to do it. That opportunity to do that, and breaking things down and doing things as the bigger picture, where everybody looks at the end goal. The small achievements you pick up along the way is something that can matter so much more in a life. So even through your big struggles, you can still appreciate the small things. And if you focus on them and almost forget about the bigger trouble that you're going through, those small achievements then become big. And then that big achievement that big upset that you've had slowly drifts away, because you're just happier with the smaller things. And then those smaller things would lead back to that big thing, but then that'll be a success because you've enjoyed it along the way. And that's the way I live my life, is that everything along the way right now, I don't know where it's going to go. I'm not saying that I know I have a path career and I know exactly where things are, but I'm enjoying it as I go along. And I enjoy the fact of people wanting to hear what I have to say or listening to my life story. But also, I enjoy helping other people. I enjoy to know that my story can comfort someone, or someone can open up to me to know that I am a person who will understand and get it just as much as I would want that with another person. So it's all led me to this way of life. And look, I wouldn't change it for the world.
If you could go back in time to speak to yourself at 16 years old, pre-surgery, boots on in the changing room, kitted up, looking forward at his career, what advice would you give to him?
The advice I would give, and it's simple and easy, is enjoy it. Enjoy everything that comes your way, good and bad, because it will always still lead you, or the fact of everything's going to be okay. Because I think when things become a job and things become stressful and things become a toll on you and the pressures come with it and the anxieties come with it, like that's when you lose the shape of why you done it. But when you play football for the memories and you live a career for the memories and you live it for the memories of why you do it, and you live it for the passion that you do it for, and not just football, this is any career, where if you ran a business, do it for that, enjoy it, because it can go like that and it can come back around just like that. So it's almost like, don't think of the bigger pictures of everything that you do on the daily basis, just enjoy and let it take care of itself.
It's great advice. Like, yeah, live in the moment. Don't get too worked up about the bigger picture, like you say, that timeline and where we look ahead to in life and what's going to happen. You start to create this little story in your mind of, if I do that, okay, then that will happen, then that will happen. And like your whole story tells us again and again, is nothing's guaranteed. And you've got to be adaptable and to be able to overcome that in the moment by just living in the moment and responding. And everything that we've said today has just come back to that control and being, what can you control? Well, your response to a situation. That's it.
I always think the same things, and everything comes back down to the fact of the reason why I believe people struggle is because you lose that control, or you lose that belief of thinking that you're in control. My mind's telling me this in my mind. You're in control of that, but you just have to work at it. Like, it's not the fact of, look, someone flicked a switch in my head and I turned to want to be this positive person. No, I choose to be that because it's my choice and I can control my choice. Doesn't mean I can control how my day is going to go, because the weather might change and these things might happen and something might cancel and all these things might go wrong. But I still have the choice for myself that I'm in control of, is how do I want to view it? Do I want to get angry, or do I want to just accept it and go, yeah, that's okay? And when you gain that control back, everything and anything is possible. And that's what I genuinely believe, is that when you realise that choice is back again, because I said what I realised for when I was down and out, I thought that this is just me and you accept it. No, but I had the choice to work on it. I have the choice to build it back. I have the choice to go for something different. I have the choice to exhaust every last avenue to be at, to get myself better. So why not choose that and do it? And it's exhausting and it isn't easy. But when you make the conscious choice to yourself, or a promise to yourself that you think to yourself, I'm not going to give up, well, then that choice alone, you will get better regardless. But you just don't need to put yourself under a pressure of putting the time scale on it.
Yeah, 100%. Bring it into close then. So something I like to do at the end of an episode is leave a question for the listener. So I spoke to you a bit before about why I started the podcast, and I enjoyed going away and having conversations about what I listened to. So for the listener now, if you could give them a question to take away to start a conversation with someone, whether that's a family member, a friend, a stranger, what would that question be?
I think with everything that we've spoken about struggles and control and how people can have their stories, I think the only question that you could ask is, when was the last time you sat and asked someone, how are they? And listened. Or asked somebody a story of why they are, or how they see things, how they do, without judging them before you know it. Because I think a lot of people come from the background of, we judge. Some person could be disruptive, some person could be really loud and roving, but why are they the way they are? Like, find out about somebody. Like, how really do you know why your friends are how they are? Those types of things, I think, go unheard of because you just accept people for what they are. But do you know the reason why, without judging?
Awesome. Mark O'Brien, thank you so much for coming on and for letting us record at
Not a problem at all.
Stadium.
Not a problem.
If people want to find you and sort of hear what you've got to say online, where can they do that?
The simple things, LinkedIn, simple things with Instagram, platform X, but then I think Instagram is like the main one that I enjoy using, just to kind of speak out daily for what my thoughts will be for myself, or certain things that I think could help other people.
Yeah, I'll tag it all below so anyone listening can scroll down and have a look. To the listener, if you've enjoyed this conversation and you can think of someone that would enjoy listening to it too, or needs to hear it, please do share it with them. You can tag @Lonely Chapter Podcast on Instagram to keep the conversation going. And as always, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.